Well, this isn't the biggest show of the year, but it's the only one with 3 keynote speeches. This first Windows World is dedicated to those of you who've supported Windows since its introduction back in 1983. I had an opportunity to go out on the show floor last night and look around at some of the new things that are going on. And it was fun to have developers come up to me and talk to me about their applications. Several of them described things they're doing with Windows that I wouldn't have even imagined would be possible. And a number of them talked about the great sales that they're having of their applications. It all reminded me of building the DOS architecture 10 years ago. DOS was an incredible undertaking. The goal was to make PCs useful for all kinds of work. We had the advantage of the breakthrough technology represented by Intel's microprocessors. But that power wasn't going to establish the PC as a useful tool. We knew we needed thousands and thousands of applications. And the only way that we saw that could happen was to get virtually all the makers of computers to build compatible machines. That way, we could support the software undertaking to make these PCs worthwhile. Well, this started in the early 1980s, and year by year, as we got more and more applications and the variety of machines grew, the phenomena took on a life of its own. People building great price performance machines, portable machines, fast machines, and we started to see PCs used in an immense variety of places, on the factory floor, on an oil rig, at the point of sale, and even in very complex, mission-critical applications. Several years ago, though, we started to see that the DOS interface was inadequate to address the advances that were taking place in hardware technology. And fortunately, we had been working for an 8-year period to build Windows as a new foundation. And just a year ago, with the introduction of Windows version 3, we brought Windows into the mainstream. The results of the last year have gone way beyond our expectations. Windows has become something that has permanently changed PCs as we know them. In fact, during the last 12 months, we sold over 4 million copies of Microsoft Windows. This is unprecedented. No software package has ever sold so well in its first year. In fact, the only software package that's ever sold at this rate is our own MS-DOS product. This lays the foundation for an incredible number of software companies to focus their attention in on the Windows environment. Now, one of the things that was very crucial to the success of Windows was the move towards the 386 processor, particularly Intel's efforts to bring the price down to make it a low-cost desktop-based machine. And as a result of that, we've seen the sales of 386 processors go up dramatically. This has really been a key thing because it gives you the speed and memory flexibility to run these rich Windows applications, particularly in multiple application scenarios. Now Intel's moving on to provide the 486 at a low-cost level. And that's something we applaud because computer performance is something you can never get enough of. In fact, we're working with Intel to design the generation that comes after the 486. We've also been encouraging system manufacturers to include Windows in with their system. What this means is that when you buy the computer, you simply turn it on and you're immediately right there in the Windows environment. It saves you all the complexity of going through the setup process. And it's encouraging to us to see that the vendors like Zenith or AST and Dell who've been including Windows with their systems are those who've experienced the greatest market share gains over the last year. This is a trend we will continue to encourage because we think it does a lot for users to think of the system all coming together in a single piece. Now, Microsoft has been doing a lot of things to gather data about how people are working with Windows and how we should change it as we move forward. Part of this was a study we did of thousands of users early this year to find out what users liked about Windows. Ease of use came out on top. People consistently cited the lower training costs and the consistent user interface. It was interesting to us to find that a number of Windows users are continuing to use DOS applications, and so running multiple applications came second. Some users are even running exclusively DOS applications with Windows operating just as a switcher. But as we looked at the data, we saw that the longer that somebody had owned Windows, the more likely they were to have switched their applications either to be partially Windows-based or entirely Windows-based. Other key features that came out were the graphical interface and the powerful integration. I think over the next several years, you'll see integration rise to the top of this list because it's so critical to providing the powerful applications that really change the way that people work. Finally, of course, memory management came in as a key feature for all the people who had been frustrated by the 640K barrier. Another source of data from Microsoft on Windows usage is the immense number of support calls that we receive. In fact, we were overwhelmed with these calls when Windows first went out, and we've been doing everything we can to increase the number of people answering these calls. We've been able to double this group over the last year, and we're going to double it again as quickly as we can. We want to get these wait times down to less than a minute to be able to answer the phone call, and some of you know that we're not achieving that right now. The key problem the most important problem that we've logged into our database as we take all these calls are the issues having to do with setup and memory management. And virtually all of these are avoidable, either by having the software auto-detect more things, understand more configurations, or by having even better documentation we have today. Another key area of questions has been in the area of printing. And here, by improving the device drivers and providing more variety, we'll be able to simplify these issues very significantly. A rising category of interest is in the area of networking. The majority of Windows users are sitting on networking-based systems, and that's very different than your average PC user. And so there's been close coordination with us and the networking providers, including our own LAN manager group, to make sure that the software comes together the right way to make Windows a great networking product. It's our belief that by taking these actions, and with the next significant release of Windows, we'll be able to reduce the number of phone calls that each copy generates by a factor of 2. It's a very ambitious goal, but by using this data and getting very direct feedback from all of you, I think it's very achievable.